Hello there, Chris. Thank you so much for choosing to have a reading with me, and especially one on such an important and personal issue. Uh, Admire your courage in doing it in a reading like this, but I do understand the price makes it more affordable than another version. Let's see. Hello there, everybody else. Right now I'm just clearing the cards for Chris's reading. And so as I do that, let me just let you know that if you would like to have a reading like this, all you have to do is check out my website, and you can find information there about how to do that. I do have private readings as well. Those are either pre-recorded, 1 or 2 question readings, or live readings, which we can do by Skype or by phone or in person if you happen to be in the Golden, Colorado area. I also offer addiction relief services. That's on my website. You can check that out and see what that's all about. And I offer reiki treatment sessions. Also on my website, you can check that out. Both of those also can be done in person, or they can be done with the use of the telephone or via Skype, either way. What else? So for those of you who are in the local area, Golden, Colorado, Denver, Boulder, surrounding area, I do house clearings. So if you're having a little trouble selling a house and you want to clear the energy so that hopefully it'll sell more quickly, you can call me. Also, if you're having trouble with any entities in the house, I'm the person to help take care of that. And then I also do psychic parties. So if you would like me to come and read for you and your guests at a party, or if you would like me to facilitate while you and your guests explore your own psychic abilities, either way is a fun way to do a psychic party, and I would be happy to be involved with that. Once again, that is in the Golden, Colorado area, anywhere within reasonable driving distance. To me, because I love doing stuff like that, reasonable driving distance is anywhere within a couple of hours or less. Preferably less, but I'll go up to a couple of hours to clear a house or to do a psychic party. All right, so that's enough of that. We have Chris's deck cleared here and ready for our reading. So now I'm going to shuffle. Let's do a little bit of backstory here. And guys, I want you to realize you really don't have to send me too much backstory, because whenever I'm looking at this, a lot of times things that are in the backstory will kind of come out in the readings. It's nice. It makes it easier for me because it helps me put things into context. But also, if you're not comfortable giving a lot of backstory, that's okay too. You don't have to. I think it's nice for the audience to hear some of the backstory. Chris has asked that I leave some things out, so I'm trying to leave out some things that might be more of the identifying factors, so that we're just looking at things that could be pretty much anyone, anywhere. And Chris's story is not so uncommon, actually, as you'll see. So Chris is actually asking me about Christina, and you'll hear more about who she is as I read through this, but he says, I kind of feel like we could be soulmates. We both love being around each other, and we try to hang out as much as we can. We text each other many, many times a day, every day. The moment we met, we both felt an instant connection to each other, like we've known each other before. We met about 9 or 10 months ago. Once we became friends, I noticed she had a little bit of attraction to me, but I had resisted looking at her in that way for several months. We became friends in January, and we just kept getting closer and more like best friends. Even though I'm 38 and she's a little older, we both love going to carnivals and amusement parks and just having a good time. She has made some subtle advances towards me that I've tried to brush off. There's a good reason for me brushing off her interest towards me. She's married. Been married for a long time to the same guy. I think she loves him, but I get the impression she's not in love with him. I think the spark has been gone for years. Maybe the marriage has run its course. I don't know. As much fun as we have and as close as we have gotten, the friendship hasn't gone past flirting. I think we both feel the relationship... Where did it go? Is changing. We're both really starting to fall for each other, although we haven't really talked about it. We're both sort of afraid to acknowledge what's going on, even though there is flirting. However, I would not personally take the relationship to anything physical unless she decided to leave her marriage. I refuse to be in a cheating relationship, and I'm not into one-night stands. I don't think that's fair to me or anyone else. Have to agree with you there for sure, Chris. But I do feel like we were meant to be together. The way we met, the instant connection we had, it seemed kind of fated. But the circumstances with us getting together are horrible. I believe she is a kind person who is sweet and doesn't want to hurt anyone. She probably doesn't want to spend another 20 years just existing in her marriage, although she loves her husband, and I think she wishes she could have a do-over without hurting him. She does have a conscience. I think she's a good person. She sent me a text the other night that said, I really wish I met you earlier in life. Even though the circumstances are bad, I feel like we both just found our best friend. Okay, so the bottom line question that Chris is asking is there a future? Is this going anywhere towards a real and solid relationship? And Chris, I really think you're brave for asking this question, but also I want to take this opportunity to kind of talk to people because your question is not uncommon. I hear stories like this all the time. You would not believe how often this type of stuff happens. And it really kind of concerns me because I think a lot of people get thrown off. And I'm not saying this is what's going on with you, Chris. I haven't thrown cards or anything yet. But I do want to take this opportunity to kind of tell people, a lot of times people get thrown off about what they're supposed to be doing with who whenever we meet somebody that we sort of just like click with and they happen to be in the gender that we're interested in romantically. So there are many, 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 many times when we bump into people from past lives and we click with them because we have a history with them, even though we don't remember it in our conscious minds, in the physical brains that came with these bodies. Our spirit remembers that other person and their spirit remembers us. And so it makes that click real easy to happen without us really understanding what's going on. And I have run across so many people who think that because that click has happened, that means now I need to upend my whole life and everything that I've worked hard for and invested in as far as relationship-wise, and just completely change everything because I've met this person. And a lot of times it's just as simple as you have history from another life with that person. It doesn't necessarily mean, oh, we've got to make big changes in this life to go back to whatever we had in a previous life. It just means that you still care about each other and you still want to know how each other are doing. So you may be kind of checking in on each other, so to speak. And sometimes check-ins just last for a few moments, and sometimes checking in turns into hanging out and can last, for years. But I think a lot of people get confused. And so I just wanted to put that out there because I think some of the people watching this video, it's useful information to have, just to know that. If you don't know that and you're in this situation, it can be a little bit overwhelming and kind of tricky. So now that I've gotten up on my soapbox and said what I want to say, let's get on to Chris's question. Is there a future for Chris and Christina? Is this going anywhere towards a real and solid relationship? And actually, I want to modify your question here, Chris. I hope you don't mind. I think we're in relationships with a lot of people. We're in relationships with the people we work with. I mean, technically, if you ask me from my point of view, you and I are in a relationship right now. We're interacting, whether we've actually met each other or not. So I want to modify your question instead of saying a real and solid relationship, because I think you guys already have a real and solid relationship. You're interacting every day. That's a relationship for sure. Let's make this different. Let's say, is there a future? Is this going anywhere toward a real and solid partnership? Because I'm thinking that's really pretty much what you're meaning. So let's word it in a more specific way. So, is there a future for Chris and Christina? Is this going anywhere towards a real and solid partnership for the two of them in this lifetime? Let's find out. Definitely some romance, romantic feelings there. Well, I don't have a really solid yes or a really solid no coming up here, so I want to take some time to check out the details a little bit more before I just start spewing off at the mouth with my opinion. I want to make sure that I'm checking in and that I'm hearing from Spirit and passing along Spirit's message and not just what Amista thinks, because that's not what my job is. That's an interesting way for that card to show up. I really don't have any cards that would show partnership per se. I do have romance showing up. I've got the Knight of Vessels, which just means that there are definitely feelings and that you guys are acting in a certain way because of these feelings. These feelings are impacting your actions. Now, that doesn't mean that, you're going to take her to bed, you're just going to lose total control and that's that. But it means that, if you didn't feel this way about Christina, then there would be different ways that you would be acting around her and reacting to her. So I do see that there is, romantic attachment there between the two of you. That's the only thing that I have coming up. There's nothing that goes solid as far as a romantic partnership in this. This card just really talks about basically about what you guys are doing already, the very beginnings of realizing that there's attraction, the flirting, hanging out, which you wouldn't be doing with somebody that you didn't, have these same feelings for, stuff like that, okay? The first card that really comes up out the gate talks about getting past some old fears. And to me, the first fear that jumps out whenever I'm looking at this talks about, you don't want to be in a situation where you're not being valued. You don't want to be in a cheating situation. And I think that that has made you afraid to have these feelings towards her, and you've gotten beyond that fear. Now you have these feelings towards her. You've kind of put that fear in the past. It's in the rear view window, or rear view mirror, I should say. But that doesn't make it any less real that it's there. What we have coming up is putting that fear behind you, allowing yourself to feel the feelings that you actually feel for her. And then the next thing that comes up really talks about doing some healing. To me, there's a little bit of a grief here about what your situation is now. Okay, and so there's some healing that is going to be coming in about, when we grieve, the first thing that really has to actually happen for us to be able to move forward, and I know there's 5 steps of grief, this is not what I'm talking about, but the first thing that has to happen for us to actually move forward when we're grieving about somebody that's lost is we have to acknowledge that they're not there, not in their body, okay? And this healing card, this is a healing from a grief or from a great sadness, talks to me about accepting that this is our situation. We're not a couple and you are married. And what are we going to do now? That type of thing. Like, okay, so we can't just pretend that that's not the truth. So accepting that this is the situation and then allowing yourself to have the feelings that you have about it and then releasing them, is basically what I see coming up here. I really see that there's no dedication. There's not the dedication to the idea of you guys becoming a couple on either one of your parts. I don't feel like, you've pretty plainly said that certain things would have to happen for you to be in that position. I really feel like even if those things happened, you would be feeling a little bit queasy about moving forward. You would have questions then about, well, she's been with this guy so long. What's to say that she would stay with me, and then end up going elsewhere? I still think that even if that opportunity was right, you would have a hard time moving forward. And I also feel like she is not ready to do the things that you would want her to do as far as your requirements for moving forward with the relationship, anything beyond where it is. She's not ready to leave her husband. Whether she's in love with him or whether she's not ready to turn her whole life upside down. So I don't really see this going anywhere as far as romantic partnership at all. I see you guys kind of adjusting to, okay, this is what we are, and really sticking with being friends, maybe being closer friends than what you would normally think of as friends, but still just being friends. And I feel like also you were going to be pretty protective of her in a lot of different ways. And it's a different type of protective than a husband type of protective. But it's almost like you are going to be continuously evaluating different situations in her life, including her marriage, and kind of trying to keep the temperature of that for yourself. And I think you're going to feel protective about her if things aren't going so hot. But at the same time, I don't see you stepping in and saying, okay, let me take his place. There would be a certain card that would come in here that, if you actually became her partner, that would show up. This is more the card of an outside mediator, maybe even. Like you might even be talking her into seeing things from her husband's point of view at some time in the future, if you're not already even. So this is really an outsider looking in at the marriage, actually, and being protective of her even in that. I think that you end up encouraging her to try to do what she can to make that a better situation for herself. That's where I feel like this is actually really going. That's what's showing up here. And I know that it's a really confusing time for you. And the best thing that you can do is just let things unfold as they will, because life has a way of letting things unfold as long as we don't try to force any issues or, I think as humans a lot of times we're tempted to make decisions before we really have to make decisions. And then that throws things sort of off track. And so if we just chill, let the universe do its thing, things unfold kind of naturally without us having to, go through all the stress of making a decision about what we're going to do. And then, okay, how do we present this decision to the other person without hurting their feelings or whatever? So, yeah, I don't see this going anywhere as romantic partnership. I do see you still being close to her. It's interesting that there's an age difference because I see you as being the more mature person, or at least having a more mature outlook and helping her to have a more mature outlook as well, especially when it comes to relationship stuff in general. Okay, so that's what I've got, my dear. That was kind of a heavy one, especially for an internet reading. But I do appreciate the question, and it did give me a chance to address something that I've really been wondering. How can I talk to people about this for a long time? So thank you for giving me that opportunity. For all of those of you who have stuck around to listen and hear what came up, thank you so much for checking out my reading style and just being curious. I appreciate it. Everyone have a fantastic day, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace out.